Okay. Promise. I promise I'm still here. I promise I'm still here. Where did we leave off last time? Let me see. It's been a hot minute. It has been a hot minute, definitely. Oh, first of all, that would help, huh? Okay. Let's load. I wonder how much of episode 3 is left. I'm gonna be real. We've been here for a very good moment. Quite a while. Let's see. Oh, we're in the middle of something. Okay. Those words of power knocked forcefully on the door to the land of the dead. The magic of her old self had performed that same forceful knock. Ooh, they're trying to revive. What's her name? Shannon. Beatrix and George trying to revive Shannon. That's what it was. That's what it was. Okay. Alright. I remember now. I remember. This is fine. This is fine. However, doing it that way was horribly violent and earned the displeasure of the peacefully sleeping dead. This time was different. It was very forceful and yet gentle and loving. The dead near the door opened their eyes and called out to the others that there was a voice calling for someone to come back. The sadness of that voice calling from outside touched the hearts of the dead. And trying to respond as quickly as possible, they searched for Shannon's lost soul. And then they found it. They found the casket in which Shannon was peacefully sleeping. It truly was Shannon's soul, sleeping in the land of the dead. Inside the casket that was covered with rose flowers, frozen with frost, she was sleeping in peace. The dead silently lifted that casket up. While at a glance it looked like a funeral march, it had the complete opposite meaning. It was solemn, but filled with joy. The long-forgotten dead were made to remember that they were loved after their deaths. And they were all given a warm sense of peace. Then, as though guided by a warm light from the heavens, Shannon's body floated up out of the casket. The dead watched her go. They squinted at that warm light, offering their respect to this unknown member of the living, who had not lost his love for a person even after their death. Oh boy. Are they really going to do it? I don't know if this was before, before we got here today, if they explained it last time, but I didn't know you could just kind of casually reanimate the dead. I'm gonna be real. I didn't know there was an endless power. Shannon's body was enveloped in the light from the heavens and began to disappear. In the jet black darkness of the land of the dead, the faint flickering of gold butterflies could be seen. It reminded them of the gentle stars in the night sky, which they had long forgotten. One second. Right. George remembered being told that he must not say anything, and he hurriedly covered his mouth. However, it felt like his heart was trying to jump into his throat, because he had seen Shannon's eyelids shake slightly. Then, those eyelids slowly opened. Shannon's eyes were there, but they were still wrapped in the fog of the land of the dead. However, the human world's warmth, no, her lover's warmth, which had called back her soul, slowly dissolved that fog. And her eyes gradually regained that sparkle. Then, her eyes moved, and recognized George. Welcome back! /AC revive. As her lips shook weakly, Shannon definitely said that. The words were very faint, so much that they normally wouldn't have reached his ears. However, George clearly heard them. He heard the person he cared for, his fiancée, the one he loved the most and who should have been dead, call his name once again.
Shano. Boku ga wakaru kai?
I mean, she's back to life. I don't think she has like dementia or whatever.
Iya. これは夢じゃないよ。だからほら、つねっても冷めないよ。
You know, something to consider is that she was one of the deaths as part of the Twilights for the epitaph. So, like, does this fuck things up now that she's back to life? Owen? As George said that, he softly pinched Shannon's cheek. It was how George had always responded in the past, when Shannon had been surprised by something and had asked if she was dreaming. But Shannon felt the warm touch of George's finger on her cheek. And when George realized that the warmth of the living had already returned to his beloved person's cheek, they both cried. What words should a pair of lovers separated by death celebrate with when they are reunited? The words of the human world are not enough. In short, they had no need of the words of this world. George simply hugged Shannon, who was sitting up without talking. Shannon's strength was still feeble, and putting her arms around George's back took all she had. So George hugged her tightly to make up for that. To stop each other from going once more to a place the other hands could reach, they hugged each other so tightly and yet so gently. As Shannon's fingers curled around George's back, on her ring finger, the engagement ring George had given her definitely shone. That strong glint certainly wasn't just the sparkle of diamond. There definitely was a magical power that only the two lovers could possibly feel. It was because that strong light existed that they had been able to find her casket in the land of the dead. Beato understood. That ring. No. The feelings of the pair embodied in that ring were a miracle made real. In that moment, George definitely used magic. Beato had done nothing more than help him along. That magic had a power that could only reside in those who knew the importance of life, who knew what it meant to try with all one's might. It was the power of a miracle, one of the endless which couldn't possibly know. A miracle that only the power of the finite could give rise to. by now, she had no choice to accept it. She had to accept that true magic, true magical power, exists in the place furthest away from who she calls herself a great witch.
ベアトリーチェ様。
彼女が君を生き返らせてくれたんだ。ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。
いいや。わらわは何もできなかった。シャノンをよみがえらせたのは、そなたの魔力。そなたの魔法。奇跡を成し遂げる後ろ宮の血。確かに見届けさせてもらったぞ。
The Ushiromiya blood, you say? Is that so? What is all of it? That's weird.
ジョージさんが私を。わらわなど足元にも及ばぬほどの凄まじき魔力であったぞ。
Humbled by even the Great Witch herself. Damn.
わらわなどまだまだ見習いの域を出るか。今こそ身の程を知ろうぞ。
Beato staggered backwards. Her physical strength was clearly exhausted. She had humbly said that George's power alone had revived Shannon, but Beato had used all of her magical and physical strength. As she reflected upon how difficult it was to revive a single life, something she'd be able to play around with however she wanted to in the past. The couple kept on embracing each other tightly. By doing that, those feelings that couldn't be communicated with a billion words were shared.
ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。君は僕たちの恩人だ。
ありがとうございます、ベアトリーチェ様。再びジョージ様に会わせてくださったこのご恩を決して忘れません。よせよせ。愛し合う二人に感謝されては外道の極みと恐れられたわらわにはくすぐったすぎるというものよ。わらわのことは気にするな。存分に再会を祝い合え。
Beato, who was leaning with her back against the wall, slid down the wall and sat. How many centuries had it been since she last grew this tired of using magic? I probably haven't been this tired since the time I first succeeded in magic. Didn't teacher praise me that time? Oh, but didn't I kill that same teacher who praised me? Yes. Oh, you know what? Actually, I remember that fight. Yes, you did. Isn't that what killing means? Don't be naive, Beatrice.
ようやく魔法の使い方を思い出したようですね。頭ん中酸欠でカラッカラで思い出すもヘチマもねえぜ。それよりあんた殺したじゃねえかよ。現れるんじゃねえよ。あなたが未だに私を生かしていますよ。
How nice.
だからこうして現れられます。 もっともあなたの頭を撫でに来たわけでもありませんが、無様なわらわをわざわざ嘲笑いに来たかよ。それに隠居までした魔女が今さら頭なんか撫でられちゃ他の魔女の笑い物だぜ。そうですね。一人前どころか現役を退いたと豪語するあなたなのに、今頃になって魔法の使い方を覚えたなど恥ずかしくて誰にも言えませんね。内緒にしてくれよ、お師匠様。
Beito gazed at the couple hugging each other with a sense of pleasant despondency.
愛か。勝てねえな。45データ治療。
That's an interesting jump. Uh-oh.
射撃準備完了。
Wait. To who? To where?
選定装填。
What? The shysters are loading?
射撃。
Uh-oh. The gold snake arrow fired by the shysters weaved its way through the bushes in the rose garden, weaved its way through the hedges, and climbed the stone steps towards the mansion's entrance, aiming for the keyhole. It weaved through the corridors and flew into the keyhole. Oh. Oh dear God. I did not see that coming. It went through the keyhole on the door to the parlor. Oh God. Don't do it. No shot! She's technically alive again, so the mission is incomplete. Oh my God, bro. Come on. In front of George? It happened in an instant. One could hardly blame Beto, who was completely worn out, for not noticing it beforehand. Oh no. They just spent all that time in magic. And you mean to tell me the shysters clocked that right away? Oh, that's horrible. Right before Beto's eyes, the gold snake flew in through the keyhole, surrounded the two lovers, and pierced the two hearts in a blink of both of them in a blink of an eye. Furthermore, the gold snake faithfully pierced a hole through Shin's chest once more. The two hearts were pierced by that gold snake. No, by that gold sewing thread of the new brutal witch's furniture. It had happened in an instant, mocking the amount of effort it had taken to revive. That's what I said! Of all that it took to revive her! Oh, that's horrible. Not even like 5 minutes. My God, bruh. Before Beto's shocked eyes, the two fell over and landed on the floor. How did even Beatrice even know? I mean, I guess if anything, they go together this time. George spent his last breath thanking Beato, and died alongside the one he loved. The gold snake, which still sewed the two in place, spun like a large cyclone, revolving around the inside of the parlor. It was searching for further prey in that room. Who's left? Oh? Wait, but she's still a witch. Wait, you can't kill her. And the tip of the snake met Beato's gaze. In an instant, Beato was prepared to die. At that moment, Virgilia stood in front of her, the fingers of both her hands drawing a seal. Oh shit! Instantly, gold-colored gold leaf buried the inside of the parlor. It was like a blizzard of gold. Is she gonna sacrifice? They were gonna Beatrice too? That's crazy. Anti-personnel image-based tracking. Like required data link to 410. Okay. So weird. Any targeted by the Shyster sisters' golden bow did not escape. It could not be blocked. No magical barrier could even dream of blocking it without being multi-layered. What the fuck are the Shyster sisters? Like, who are these, like, Omega level threat demons or furnitures, bro? They sound higher up than the witch herself. The gap opened during that instant of confusion caused by Virgilia's deception magic was Beato's only chance of escape. And it was the only chance to make the sisters confuse Virgilia for Beato. As Virgilia spread her arms wide, blocking the way to her beloved disciple, the gold snake pierced straight through her heart. Oh. After sneaking in through the keyhole, the snake shot through George, Shannon, and then Virgilia in an instant. Oh, God. Completely failing to notice Beato as she used that as an instant to escape. I mean, Virgilia is technically already dead. It's like, I don't know. I don't know how that works. Like, did her apparition just die? As soon as Virgilia saw that Beato had gotten away, she died. The strength left her body, and like gold dust drifting with the wind, her form was erased. Beato completely erased all traces of her magical power, became gold butterflies, and passed through the wall, escaping to the wind and rain outside. Dude, Eva has just earned herself a UAV. This is actually crazy. Yeah, I think something's gotta be done about her. Running this, she's running this episode like King Von. This is kind of crazy. Beto felt regret from the bottom of her heart. Why, you might ask? Because she'd been attacked by the new witch? Probably not. Of course, she hated losing her teacher. And even more importantly, Beto was enraged at the barbarism that had boorishly stolen away the reunion between two lovers. Beto had poured out almost all of her magical power to reunite them. Even though the result had been a miracle, the time it took to steal that away had been so ridiculously short. Beto trembled at the barbarous cruelty that had brought about such an abrupt end. Besides, this was the true form of the acts herself had committed up until that point. So just as strongly as Beto had hated the new witch, she also looked at her previous self with disgust. If they wanted to jump scare me, this is how you would do it. Okay, never mind. But now, she had to escape. If she was targeted next, she would probably lose her life. To think that a chess player had ascended, thinking they were like a god, only to be attacked by pieces, or by the pieces. Yeah, congrats. I guess if you can really be proud of yourself for that. Fussy old hag, no respect, it's crazy. I mean, he doesn't want to get shot, he doesn't want to be next. Even if he did, he probably wouldn't say anything. I was wondering why. Okay. Yeah, thank God. Fuck you. Well then. It's a little late for that. Oh, I was about to say it's a new OST, but actually, I think we've heard this one before.
俺たち眠くなってその後は多分居眠りしてたし。でも多分ジェシカの言う通りだと思うぜ。1時間か2時間くらい前だった。
私もそのくらいの頃だと記憶しています。コーヒーのおかわりはいるかと聞かれましたからな。
Something hard to believe had happened. Apparently, when Aunt Eva had left for a second to wash her hands, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui had disappeared. There's no way they went hiding somewhere. Of course, the doors and windows had all been rigorously checked, and all were locked from the inside. Not one of them was broken. And that was just true for the first floor. The second floor was the same. Again, all the doors and windows had locks built in a way that made it impossible to lock from the outside. In other words, there was no way that Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui had gone outside. And yet they couldn't be found. Furthermore, they weren't the only ones who had disappeared. So George Aniki, of all people, George Aniki had left saying he was going to get more coffee. And gone downstairs more than an hour earlier. I could probably use coffee. We assumed that he was having a conversation with Aunt Eva and the rest. But Aunt Eva, who had been in the lobby the whole time, said that no one had come down. Since all the doors and windows were locked from the inside, it was unthinkable that they had gone outside. However, 3 humans had evaporated from the barricaded guest house, which had become a perfectly closed room. In a situation like this, we couldn't imagine that this was because they were playing hide-and-seek and trying to scare us with a prank. It was probably reasonable to assume that they had been caught up in this crime. When Aunt Eva had learned that her only son was missing, she had gone half insane, running from room to room yelling his name. And Jessica, who had suddenly lost both of her parents, had chased after her. Cries of George, and Mom, Dad had continued to echo through the guest house for some time. I think George said something about wanting to see Shannon's dead face. It would be reasonable to assume that he snuck out of the guest house and went to the mansion. But I didn't have a clue about Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui. Did they see him leave and then go to the mansion to search for him? Without even telling Aunt Eva. At this rate, it's only a matter of time before we start planning to leave the guest house to go search for them. When that time comes, I'll agree. We thought staying holed up in this guest house would be safe, which was why our big, happy group of 12 people locked themselves up here this morning. And yet, now there's only 4 of us left. That means staying here is no guarantee of safety. Anything could happen. However, there's one thing we can't afford to forget. It's that all the doors and windows were locked from the inside. This is a closed room. How did they manage to vanish from this place? Alright, Battler, let's see you think your way through this one. How do they escape from this closed room here? I'm genuinely dying to know. We searched around thoroughly. However, we couldn't find any traces of someone hiding. The 3 of them had almost certainly been taken outside the guest house.
どうやってでしょう。
どうやと。
まさか隠し扉とかがあるとか。
guess you could throw that hat in the ring if you could prove it.
隠し扉
You know?
扉も窓も外から閉めることは構造上不可能です。釣り糸の類を使ってもこの構造では無理でしょうな。となれば扉や窓以外から出たと考えるのが妥当でしょう。
確かにそういう論法にもなるだろうよ。隠し扉が存在しないなんて断言は誰にもできない。しかしそういう発想に飛躍する前に俺はもっとシンプルな可能性も疑ってる。
と申しますと、
Here we go. Here we go. Is that thunderstorm coming back? Anyways. For some time, Battler had been opening windows, opening shutters, and checking outside. You know, repeating this for each window.
この窓は静かだな。なるほど。この窓は他と違って建物の構造上風が吹き込まないわけか。
そのようですな。こんなにも外は風雨なのに雨も風も入ってこないとは不思議な気持ちです。
南條先生、今窓を開けた時音を感じたかい？
いえ、気にはなりませんでしたな。よく油が効いていると思います。
つまり誰も見ていない廊下の窓からひょろっと抜け出すことは可能なわけだ。
Is it not the same window that's locked from the inside? Question mark?
しかもこの窓なら風も吹き込まないから。風圧でカーテンや扉が音を立てることもない。静かなもんさ。
Bagger leaned forward and looked at the ground below. He was searching for some sign that George had jumped down. At a glance, he didn't see any mark like that on the grass in the middle of the pouring rain.
こういう窓が1階にもあるのかもしれない。誰にも気づかれずに表へ出ることは可能だぜ。
しかし扉はおろか、窓はすべて施錠されて鎧戸まで閉まっていましたぞ。
That's what I said.
出ることは可能でも閉めることは不可能だ。
That's a good point.
閉められるぜ。こうやってカチャンとな。
Bagger closed the window and locked it as though this was perfectly obvious.
まさかバトラさんは。
最後に中の人間が鍵を閉めればこんな密室は朝飯前だ。
So what we're going with here is that George unlocked the door, or the window, whatever, hopped outside, and then someone from the inside relocked it after he left. You know, I think I really need to start looking at this as a... Instead of, is it physically possible? more of a, would you logically do it? Like, is it logically possible? It's always, I can prove this physically, how this could be done, but he never once considers the morals or ethics or just even like the common sense or just the logistics of, would somebody typically do this? Would they actually do this? All he cares about is if it's physically possible. That's all he's got to prove. And I don't know.
しかしそれでは
I feel like he gets off scot-free so many times because nobody considers that.
それでは
Nacho turned pale and shook his head several times. Because the thing Battler had said had forced him to face the fact that it was frightening even to imagine.
俺の想像したトリックならな。しかしこんなトリックを使えば怪しまれる人物は極めて限定される。
He didn't want to say it in front of Nanjo, but after eliminating Jessica, who had been with him the whole time, only Nanjo and Eva could have done it.
私はそんなことをしませんぞ。
So, Nanjo's saying he didn't do it, right? And the only other person he just now said that could have done it would be Eva. So what we're saying is that Eva helped her own son go through a window and locked him out of the window and out of the house, only to just go, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes later, running around the madhouse looking for him almost right away in a panic. You really think she would help him escape and get out of here? And then what? Pretend or feign being scared of where her son is? Her lost son? You gotta be kidding me, man. Why did they eat this up?
誓ってもいい。
となるとエヴァおばさんと南條先生のアリバイ合戦ってことになる。
Jesus.
俺たちは二人とも怪しんで、それぞれを別々に監禁すればいいだけの話。逆に言えば、このトリックはもっと生存者が多ければ有効かもしれないが、これだけ人数が減った状況下では大して有効ではないんだ。
No. On the contrary, there'd be a chance of having your own neck strangled by you. It would have been more advantageous to make it look like the culprit was outside. To intentionally leave a door unlocked or break a window.
もしこの失踪劇が今日の昼にでも起これば、
Okay.
俺は自信満々にこの説を発表しただろうよ。だが、この段階に至っては全然自信が持てないぜ。
I'm not surprised. Okay.
何なんだこいつは。一体何を意味してやがるんだ。この密室はよ。
やはりその。
なんだい、南條先生。思いつきでもいいから言ってくれよ。
Nacho looked like he was trying to swallow his words, even though he had thought of something, so I urged him on. After Dr. Nacho refused several times, saying it was just a foolish idea, he finally said it out loud.
やはりこれは本当に魔女の仕業ではないのかと。
Oh! Are we allowed to mention the witch? Is it okay if we just think maybe it could be magic? Is that right? Is that fine? Badly? Like, is that cool, man? Eyes emoji? Welcome in. It's good, Bradford.
バカバカしい。魔女なんているわけがねえぜ。
魔女は私たちに訴えたいのです。人間にはできないことをやってのけるからこそ、自分を魔女だと認めさせたいに違いないのです。
Would that be such a bad thing?
私はこのゲストハウス全体の密室からの失踪は、そういう魔女からのメッセージだと感じています。考えてはならないのです。意味なんてきっとないのです。私は恐ろしい。
It's working! As Dr. Nanjo shook with fear, it looked like he was trying to erase the fearsome thoughts that he had kept imagining, one after another. When he went down the stairs, Aunt Eva and Jessica were enraged, and were each persistent in their desire to leave this place and search for their respective families. It was a desire that naturally hits those who can no longer see their family. Aunt Eva told Dr. Nanjo and me to stay here, but I shook my head and started walking.
もう引きこもりはたくさんだぜ。俺も外の空気を吸いたくなってきた。
Step outside?
ああ、行くならさっさと行こうぜ。もうこんなところに閉じこもってるのはまっぴらさ。早く父さんや母さんやジョージ兄さんを探しに行こう。
The blood had all risen to Jessica's head. I hope it doesn't set off her asthma. Oh yeah, I forgot she had asthma. That's true.
残りたい人は勝手に残ってればいいわ。とにかく私たちは表を探してくるわ。
南條先生はどうする？一人で留守番してるかい？
いえ、私もご一緒させてください。
I'm surprised Nanjo made it this far. I think he usually gets killed early. Rather than holding up alone in a guest house whose security was by no means guaranteed, it would be better to enter a danger zone as a group of 4 people. Light party time! What was that? Wait, what the fuck? Hold on. What the hell's going on? Oh, okay. Right, Aunt Eva had a gun. Moving separately from her was almost like asking to be made the next victim. Yeah, he's got a point there. He's got a point there. In this way, the 4 of us decided to leave the guest house. Even though it should have been safe to barricade ourselves here, we lost 8 people after doing so. It was almost as though it was a holding cell from which the sacrifices could be killed one after another. We removed the chain, unlocked the front door, and opened it. It was already pitch black. While there were some lights outside that dimly lit the pathway, they didn't have enough power to pierce the darkness that some suspicious person might be hiding in.
行くわよ。遅れても知らないんだからね。
Hey, every man for himself! Shit. Lock in. Still holding her gun, Aunt Eva dashed out without an umbrella. Jessica followed after her. After glancing at each other, Dr. Nanjo and I chased after them. What the world was happening in this mansion, on this island? He's been shut up in the guest house with the rest of the cousins since yesterday. So I don't know anything about what's going on outside. Just what is happening that I don't know about. Outside this room in the mansion, on the island. Everything is happening. Everything is proceeding. And everything is ending without my knowing it. Somewhere in my... I've already started giving up. Most likely, not one of us will see tomorrow morning. When the seagulls cry, Umineko, nobody will be left alive. I said the name! When seagulls cry! Dude, I really hope we at some point get to slime this Eva Beatrice. Like, she has to go. She's gotta go. Jessica's woeful voice echoed throughout the rose garden. Perhaps it was the intuition of a person who lived on this island. After checking the part of the rose garden where Aunt Rosa and Maria had fallen, and seeing nothing, Jessica went to look into the arbor next. Normally the arbor was probably a wonderful location to enjoy tea peacefully while approaching the roses on a good sunny day. That's what it's called, an arbor? Oh. I thought that's like trees for Spanish. Fuck, other way around. Maybe even Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsui had days when they relaxed and enjoyed their tea together here. In that arbor lay their corpses. At least they aren't drenched in the rain like Aunt Rosa and Maria had been. But there was no way I could say that out loud to Jessica at that moment. What do you think? I think they're fucking dead, kiddo.
考察ですな。ほら、ご覧なさい。首にくっきりと何か細いもので締めた跡が残っている。
だな。まさかこっちが主たる死因のわけはねえだろうよ。
Right there lay two stake-like weapons decorated with an occult design, which had been found and driven into Uncle Krause's thigh area, and near Aunt Natsui's calf. We found these sticking out of my parents' forehead and chest. We decided to preserve the crime scene and leave them for the police. But Jessica didn't care about such matters and immediately pulled the stakes out of their parents' forsaken bodies.
足の5つをえぐられた死体が出たわけね。
Gouge in the head and kill.
第8の番まではこれで終わったわ。続くは第9の番なの。
The ninth is. Where are we at?
魔女は蘇り、誰も生き残れはしない。
Oh!
上等だぜ。魔女が蘇るってことは犯人が堂々と姿を現してくれるってことなんだろう。何が誰も生き残れないだ。私が殺してやる。父さんと母さんを殺した犯人をこの手で絶対に殺してやる。
Jessica let her emotions flow out as she howled furiously. To avoid being crushed by grief, she could do nothing but resist it with anger.
まだジョージが見つかってないわ。ジェシカちゃんたちはここにいたければいるといい。私は屋敷へ行くわ。
エヴァさん、バラバラに行動してはいけない。みんなで一緒に行動しなくては危険です。
Just what they want.
兄さんたちはもうどうしようもないわ。でもジョージはまだどこかで生きているかもしれない。ここで時間を潰してる暇はないのよ。
As Aunt Eva screamed this, Jessica glared at him. Eva had no more time to bother about the dead. She was more concerned with the safety of her only son, who had yet to be seen.
ジェシカちゃんはここでお父さんとお母さんのそばにいるといい。私はちょっと屋敷に行ってくるわ。バトラ君も南條先生もここにいてくれていい。
After arbitrarily saying this, Aunt Eva rushed out of the arbor. I called out to stop her, but there was no way she would listen. However, being alone in this situation meant nothing short of death. If we silently watched her leave, it would be the same as letting her die. You know, since Aunt Eva was unwilling to stop, we had no choice but to follow her. And while it may be cruel to say so, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Natsu were already dead. So there was nothing more we could do for them. In the end, we had no choice but to console Jessica and head for the mansion together. Fortunately, Jessica stood up. Perhaps she'd been able to break free from her grief. But what had surfaced in its place was an expression like a demon's.
私がこの手でぶっ殺して必ず敵を取ってやる。行こうぜバトラー。犯人を見つけたら邪魔をするなよ。
Oh yes, we won't get in your way as you go and attempt to slime out Queen Vaughn. No, you can have that smoke all by yourself.
私が絶対に殺す。
俺も親父たちの仇があるんだ。悪いが早いもん勝ちだぜ。
そうだな。ぶっ殺してやろうぜ。
At my words, Jessica finally seemed to feel like we sympathized with her emotions. You know, she still had that dark expression, but I felt that Jessica had regained some of her sanity. We took off, chasing after Aunt Eva, through the rose garden, up the stone steps, running at full speed towards the mansion, whose large, intimidating shadow flashed in the lightning. With this, the murders of the Epitaph have reached the 8th twilight. And then on the 9th twilight, the witch shall arrive. None shall be left alive. I will most likely lose my life. But at the very least, I want to burn the truth into my eyes. That's the only thing motivating me to move right now. That's it. We were able to meet up with Aunt Eva, who was having trouble with the lock to the front door. It seemed like that all the blood had risen to Aunt Eva's head. That was probably making her fingers clumsy. It looked like she couldn't even handle the simple task of inserting the key into the lock. Then, there was a faint sound. The sound of the door unlocking. Just as though I had waited for all the survivors to unite before opening. It felt to me as though the malicious mansion was trying to swallow up the remaining humans at once. Monster House? Perhaps the stench that erupted outwards the instant the door opened couldn't be described as just a smell. It wasn't just the charred smell from grandfather. I think it was also may have contained the regrets of the servants in Dad's grave. All of the dead. What did it mean as it floated out, overwhelming us? Was it the cry of the dead, telling us not to enter? However, Aunt Eva didn't even flinch at something like that. And we, who had to chase after her, were forced to step into the mansion, even after receiving that message.
Georgie? Georgie?
He's here. He's here, alright.
聞こえたら返事をしなさい。ジョージー
Aunt Eva shouted at the top of her lungs. Considering the situation, it's probably too far optimistic to imagine that he's alive. We started following Aunt Eva's example and calling out George's name in loud voices. Aunt Eva spotted something and stopped walking. She was standing in front of the door to the parlor.
これは南條先生、ちょっと来てもらえるかしら。
何事ですかな。
I'd heard about the eerie magic circles written on doors, like the one on the parlor from the adults. Eerie is the only word to describe that thing, which was scribbled with a deep red paint reminiscent of blood, so that it slowly dripped down. However, that had supposedly been there since this morning. Wondering why Aunt Eva, who had supposedly seen it already, would think it odd now, Jessica and I stared at the door.
確かにこんな数字が書かれていた記憶はありません。
ええ、なかったわ。不気味な魔法文字みたいなのは書かれていたけど、数字は書かれていなかった。
However, right now there are only 8 digits written near the upper part of the magic circle. This is... Wait, whoa, wait, hold on. Let me save this real quick. I know my ass is gonna forget. I'm so gonna forget. I'm gonna just keep this over here. 071 51129. The hell could that mean? I didn't know what it meant, but I didn't even want to imagine what someone had been thinking when they wrote it. It was drawn with the same paint as the magic circle. It had clearly been written very recently. The way it had dried and the condition of the color was completely different from the magic circle part.
どうせ魔法的な意味があるんだろうぜ。深く考えたって意味なんかあるわけもないさ。
Sophia intentionally spat those words out in an attempt to push aside the eerie feel it gave off.
魔法陣というものかもしれませんが。
A magic square?
ある種の数字遊びに魔除けが宿るという考え方です。
Never heard of that.
どの列を足しても同じ数字になるみたいなものを皆さんも見聞きしたことがおありでしょう。
Adding all of the numbers in each row leads to the same sum?
あれは四角形の中に埋めた数字の話じゃなかった？これは横一列だもの。何の意味があるのかさっぱりだわ。多分ジェシカちゃんの言うのが正解よ。私たちが深く考えたところで意味なんか何もないわ。
Even though she said that, she probably suspected that it actually meant something. Oniba was deftly writing that number down on an old receipt or something with a short ballpoint pen. Unless it had some obvious pattern, it'd probably be tough to memorize a code made up of an 8-digit number.
これ日にちとかな。
Well, it ends with 29. Also, wait, hold on. 7, 15, 11. That's too many digits for a date.
日にち？何の話？
いや偶然だろうけどな。俺の誕生日。
Well, actually, if you spelled out the entire year instead of just the last 2 digits, wait. Okay, if you spelled out using the entire year, it could be a date. But the year would be 11/29, at least by default here. See, it's unscrambled.
7月15日なんだ。0715が7月15日を示すのかなって思ったら。
What do you do with the 11/29? You're telling me, like...
1129も、ほら、その、11月29日って読んだら、ちょうど語呂がいいかなって思ってよ。
Oh, 2 different dates? July 15th? Holy shit, that's actually like, what, 7 days away? No, I think 6 days away. Damn, imagine if I had literally picked up this episode on exactly July 15th. That'd be crazy timing. Damn.
そして11月29日ってなんだよ。
俺が知りてえぜ。まあ、その、たまたまの偶然だろうけどな。そう考えたら、なんだか不気味になっちまったぜ。11月29日が誰かの誕生日だったりとかするのか？うちの家族は違うぜ。親父もキリエさんもエンジェも違う。
Is it Nanjo's birthday?
もちろん、俺のお袋もだ。
Nanjo November?
心当たりがありませんが、
I guess he would say it here if it was his.
うちの家族も違うわよ。ローザやマリアちゃんでもないわ。
うちの家族だって違うぜ。カノン君も違うし、シャノンも違う。私、使用人の人の誕生日にはちゃんとプレゼント渡してるからみんな知ってるけど。
Damn, how did that many people dodge November as a birth month? That's crazy. That's like over 12 people, and none of them had a birthday in November.
11月29日に誕生日の人間なんて知らないぜ。
Once we started imagining that the 8 digits weren't meaningless, but actually 2 dates written together, it really started to look that way. However, its true meaning may be something completely different, or there may be no meaning at all. Well, anyway, since we don't have any real clues, it's probably pointless to stand around here worrying about it. The inside of the parlor is much more important. This morning, behind each of the doors, with a magic circle drawn on them, had been the body of a victim. So if something new has been added to this door, does that mean something new has been added inside the parlor? When Aunt Eva tried to open it, she felt the resistance of the lock. She immediately took out a master key and put it in the keyhole. Oh, you poor thing. Yeah. GG's, Eva. As soon as she opened the door, Aunt Eva let out a high-pitched scream and ran inside. That alone was enough to tell us what had happened inside the room. Dr. Najo and I looked at each other. I shook my head slightly as we entered the parlor.
Georgie! Georgie! しっかりして。Georgie! 南條先生、早く。
George Aniki lay there, crumpled alongside Shan's corpse. His chest was stained bright red. And judging by his still opened eyes, I'd hate to say it, Aunt Eva, but I couldn't pick up any signs of life. Oh, George. Something's a little, funky about this art. I don't know what happened, but... what's going on here? I don't think it was like this last time. Something's wrong with this, install. But I don't know what happened. Oh well. Still, most of it's working. His corpse was found in the mansion's parlor. The weapon used on him is assumed to be a gun or a spear-shaped object. In exchange for his soul, the witch gave him 8 numbers. If you say it, a small golden land will be opened. Interesting. After moving to take George's pulse, Dr. Najo shook his head, wordlessly reporting that George was dead. Brushing him aside, Aunt Eva once again crouched beside George Aniki. She started crying at the top of her lungs. With Aniki's death, one thing is certain. The murders hadn't ended on the 8th twilight. The epitaph was being carried out in its complete form, including the ninth twilight, and none shall be left alive. I was really starting to lose track of things. For some reason, Aunt Yuma's half-crazed cries actually made me cool down. Crestfallen and exhausted, I flopped onto the sofa and plunked my feet on top of the table. Maybe all these murders numbed my heart. Instead of just being frightened, I felt completely confused. Dad and Kairi-san are dead. People have been killed off one by one, starting with the servants. There's been a hell of a lot of them by now. I don't know when the first murder happened, but they might have been killed at a rate of about one person per hour by now. We believe that the boat will come for us around 9 tomorrow. There's still a full 12 hours until it. How many more sacrifices to the witch will there be for us to survive? With the four of us, if one goes each hour, we won't last any longer than 4 hours. Wow, math. We don't even know if we'll last until midnight tonight. Yesterday, after lunch, we came into this parlor. Just as they started talking about serving some tea Aunt Rosa had bought, we kids decided to take a walk. Marie was jumping around, wasn't she? Did Shannon-chan bring us some cookies? He said Kumasawa-san had baked them or something. It would have been hilarious if she baked some mackerel into them, wouldn't it? How do you bake fish into cookies? That's right. I'll never hear Kumasawa Bachan's mackerel jokes again, will I? Oh, right. If I only remembered stuff about Kumasawa Bachan, that wouldn't be fair to everybody else. Why did Dad and Kairi-san even go outside? It's not like going without food for a day would kill us. So why did Gluttony get a hold of them and make them go out for food? I'll bet that fearless dad of mine just started complaining about being hungry. Harrison, you were supposed to be at the brakes for my reckless dad. Why didn't you stop it? And what about your daughter, Ange? Dude, have we ever met Ange? Have we ever seen them at all? I feel like I heard them, but I don't know about ever seen them or if they're ever brought up that often. I just don't think so. He's still just 6 years old. Don't tell me you plan to leave her in my care. After all, it's doubtful now whether even I'll be able to leave this island alive. Mentioned every episode or so she had left at home because she was sick. Oh, okay. Forever stuck at home, I see. I guess maybe we'll never see her then. It's been kind of noisy for a while. By the time I looked up to see what it was, Jessica and Aunt Eva had suddenly started fighting each other. No. Maybe I should say that Jessica was grabbing at Aunt Eva. Oh, this is what you want to start? Hey now.
ったのお父さんたちなんか知るわけないでしょ。
ゲストハウスの1階にいたのは誰だよ。
Hey, just remind her, Jessica, what's she holding right now? Like, I'm just saying.
おばさんだ。1階のロビーには父さんと母さんと、そしてエヴァおばさんがいた。生き残ったのは誰だ。
What the flip? Hold on, I gotta mute real quick. Alright, sorry about that. That was a phone call that was supposed to happen way earlier in the day at like 4 p.m. But for some reason they decided to call like several hours later, so that was really cool. Unavoidable phone buster. Okay, but it is over with, so we are Gucci and good to go. We go. Playing the blame game. Letting our emotions lead us.
父さんと母さんを殺して外へ運び出して白々しく鍵を閉めて魔女の仕業なんかを装いやがったんだ。
じゃあジョージはどうしていなくなったのよ。1階には降りてきてないのよ。じゃあ2階でいなくなったっていうの？2階には誰がいたのよ。あなたたちがいたんじゃない。あなたは知ってたんでしょ？ジョージがこっそりゲストハウスを抜け出すのを。それを自分は何も知らないような顔を抜け抜けと。あんたがジョージを止めててくれれば、ジョージは
やめなさいというのに。
We can't confirm that for sure.
ジェシカさんはずっといとこ部屋にいました。そしてエヴァさんもずっと1階のロビーにいました。そして2人とも何も悪くない。
He chose phone. That's annoying.
ただ家族を失って悲しいだけなんです。犯人なんか誰もいない。どこにもいない。ただただ魔女のせいなだけなんです。だからお二人で憎み合うのはやめなさい。
Yeah, I finally understand why 3 people evaporated from the guest house. All the doors were locked from the inside. My God. This is what they were after. Making us think the culprit was inside, and sparking this ugly, mutual hatred. Has to be the witch's goal. But if that's the case, how did the culprit lock it from the outside? When Dad's group was attacked, their master key was definitely stolen. But the doors and windows to the guest house were built so that you couldn't lock them from the outside, no matter how hard you tried. So that master key should have nothing to do with the guest house closed room. Welcome in, Dilla. Hope you're doing well. Jessica and Aunt Eva were turning their sadness at losing their blood relatives into anger at the person in front of them. Dr. Nanjo was trying to step between them. And I sat in the sofa, staring up at the ceiling, thinking about things that didn't even matter anymore. with a worn-out expression. I just couldn't believe that this was the same parlor that had been so warm and pleasant midday yesterday. For just a short time before the typhoon hit. Whoa! Wait, what? I'm sorry, what? No, you did. Did you just pause? No way! The sound of the sudden gunshot shook me out of my half-sleep trance. Smoke was rising out of the barrel of the gun Aunt Eva held. Oh my god. Jessica had fallen to the floor and was covering both her eyes. Aunt Eva and Dr. Nanjo were looking down at her in shock. Why is Eva looking in shock? Did you not shoot her? Wait, what? Did you finish that Barony run? I didn't. And also, I think I might have meleeed on Ranger mode. Because I accidentally broke something with my fist. Also, what happened to your mic? Wait, what do you mean what happened to my mic? Does it sound different? Wait, what do you mean? Wait, did something happen to my mic? How does it sound? It sounds like we're at Wendy's? Wait, like the speaker? Wait, what the fuck? That's weird. Wait, hold on. I did not know that. Oh, god damn it. It's poor timing. Hold on. Alright, testing. Is this better? Yeah, can you clip it real quick? Can you clip it for me? Way better. Dude, my fucking, what is it called? OBS filters were turned off. My noise gate, compressor, all of it. I don't know why or when that happened. I have no clue, but I just found them and they were turned off. That's so weird. So that probably explains it. But yeah, if you just clip it, and I'll look at it later. Damn, that sucks. I've been like that this entire time. Nobody said anything. Unfortunate. Oh, that sucks. But I mean, I guess I'm glad I fixed it. So it's whatever. You sound like you cranked the game by 30 deep fry this shit? Oh, damn. That sucks. That's gonna be an embarrassing VOD later. Alright. Your gun is smoking, and was it your fault? What do you mean? What? Oh, so you did voluntarily pull that trigger. Oh. Did you shoot her eye out? So, did Jessica grab at Aunt Eva, which turned into a scuffle? Did they start fighting over Aunt Eva's gun? Did some kind of impact cause the trigger to be pulled? Sadly, I cannot clip it in time. I mean, that's fine. I'm just gonna go back and watch the VOD anyways. I mean, it's been doing it for the majority of this stream, so it's not gonna be hard to find. It's literally been like that until you showed up. So I'll find it. I didn't know if the bullet had grazed her or if she'd been burned by the discharge. But either way, Jessica was covering both of her eyes, screaming, "It hurts, it hurts," and rolling around on the floor.
大丈夫、落ち着いて。
But yeah, you good now? So don't worry. I appreciate it. God, I'm glad you said something. That's... ugh. I could have gone on like that tomorrow and not even know. Don't worry. Calm down. Alright.
大した怪我ではありませんぞ。気をしっかり。
Please. Nah, I'll explain the Barony run later. Dr. Nacho let Jessica borrow his shoulder, saying that he would tend to her in the servant room. The servant room in this mansion had to be a bed and a first aid kit, and was able to function as an infirmary.
父さんと母さんの仇殺してやる殺してやる
Right now, Jessica.
私じゃないわよ私じゃない
ジェシカさん、傷に触りますから、それ以上騒がないで。さあ、使用人室に行きましょう。
Jessica continued to curse Aunt Eva as her parents' murderer. It seemed that Aunt Eva couldn't conceal her trembling at the fact that she had pulled the trigger, even if it had been an accident. Yeah, the problem audio is the most important thing. Yeah. One of my good friends I met because I came to the stream was like, "Yo, bro, no disrespect." Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why those filters were turned off. I don't remember turning those off myself, so I genuinely don't know.
私のせいじゃないわよあの子が掴みかかってきたからこんなことに私は殺してなんかないわよそれよりジョージは誰が殺したのそうよジョージは誰が殺したのよジョージジョージ私は悪くない私は悪くない
They are both losing it.
待てよエヴァおばさん。一人になるな。
I didn't know if it was because Aunt Eva couldn't bear her mistake, or if she'd given up control of her body to anger at that person who had killed her only son. Or if it was both of those, all mixed together. You know, at any rate, she ran out into the corridor, yelling fearful and screaming. I was also worried about Jessica's condition, but right then, I couldn't leave Aunt Eva alone. You know, why would she go off on her own in this mansion of all places? Is she suicidal? Dr. Nanjo took Jessica towards the servant room. I chased after Aunt Eva, dashing into the depths of the mansion. It's dangerous. Load of barnacles. After sitting Jessica on the servant room bed, Nacho told her several times not to touch her eyes and examined the affected area. The barrel had probably been near her eyes. Okay, so I don't think she was shot. I feel like she'd be in much worse pain if she was actually shot. Maybe some, like, smoke or gunpowder got in her eyes is kind of what it sounds like. There was a possibility that the flames from the discharge had injured her cornea. Oh, okay. If it was that close, then I guess that too. Oof. I guess she's glad she didn't go blind. There was no threat to her life, but it would probably be necessary to take her to a doctor as soon as possible. Nacho applied emergency first aid, covering the affected area with gauze and wrapping it with a bandage. As a result, Jessica completely lost her field of vision.
いいですかな。傷が痛んだりうずいたりするでしょうが、絶対に書いたり揉んだりしてはなりませんぞ。
Oh, anyways, I got a dip. I'm trying to spread the gospel of Barony at $2. Yeah, I think that sale ended. I would double check Steam before you do that, because when I woke up this morning before work, I think it had like 4.5 hours left on that sale. I would just double check. I could be wrong.
明日になったらすぐに眼科の先生のところへ行きましょう。
Oh, so an ophthalmologist is for eyes. Oh, that's a term I use at work.
あいつね、本当は私を殺すつもりだったんだ。ほんのちょっと角度が悪かったら今頃殺されてた。絶対にあいつを警察へ突き出してやる。
エヴァさんはそんなことはしませんぞ。あれは事故です。
Yeah.
事故なもんか。あいつが父さんと母さんを殺したんだ。
We still don't have any proof.
この島には19人目も魔女もいるわけがない。あいつが全ての犯人なんだ。ゲストハウスの1階にはあいつだけがいた。父さんと母さんを殺し、それを見てしまったジョージ兄さんも口封じに殺したに違いない。じいさまや使用人の人たちだってそうさ。きっとあいつは夕べの親族会議の途中でこっそり抜け出し、みんなを殺したに違いない。
Some crazy accusations.
もしそうならば、警察が調べればすぐにわかることです。警察はすごいですぞ。鑑識の手にかかればわからぬことなどありません。
You know, except for magic.
私たちは誰かを疑ったり恨んだりする必要などないのです。すべて警察が解決してくれます。だからジェシカさんは今は体を休め、目を楽にすることに専念するのです。あまり眉間にシワを寄せては目にはもちろん美容にもよくありませんぞ。
When Jessica's abuse of Eva had reached a crescendo, she actually had started glaring instinctively, and pressure on her eyes had hurt her. Jessica herself realized that the more she talked, the more the wound would hurt. Regardless of whether she'd overcome her suspicions of Eva, she regained her composure for the time being.
あいつが殺したんだ。父さんや母さん。シャノンや。カノン君も。
I hate this theme. This one genuinely tugs at the heartstrings. She'd heard that Canon had been killed in the chapel. Jessica still hadn't seen his face after he had died. Jessica was now less fearful about the fact that she was blinded, and more frightened that the police could carry Cannon's body away while she still couldn't see. As she would have to say her final farewell without being able to look at his face. Her anger at the culprit and her sadness at the death of the person she liked. Those mixed emotions started her crying. But right now, tears were actually painful for her. So she wasn't even permitted to leisurely remember his face in bygone days. Jessica could do nothing but sit on the bed and let her head droop, withstanding the pain.
さて、今度はエヴァさんの方が心配です。気に病まれていなければいいのですが。
Realizing that Jessica had calmed down for the time being and letting out a sigh, he stuck his head out into the hallway to look for any sign of the others coming back. Oh! Oh, shit! Hey man, you better pray to whatever God you believe in, because he is not listening. That's Queen Vaughn right there. Then their eyes met. Nanja, unable to understand who this person was bewildered for an instant.
視力を失った人間って反魔法力も対魔法抵抗力もゼロになるんですって。
The Rokenjima Reaper, so true. Rokenjima Reaper is here.
つまり今のあんたはアイソレーテッドポーン。意味がわかるかしら。
なんですと。
Nanjo had no way of understanding who the person in front of him was, much less what she had just said.
南條先生、どうしたんです？
Unable to see, Jessica had to rely on voices alone to make out the situation. But since she heard Nanjo say something in an uneasy tone, she tightened up, thinking that something bad might have happened.
やめてくれ。殺さないでくれ。わしには病弱の孫がおる。ここでは死ねんのだ。頼む、見逃してくれ。
I'm so sorry, Blood.
南條先生、南條先生。
Jessica couldn't do anything except call out from the bed. Judging by the tone of his voice, Nanjo was in the corridor, confronting someone. And he was scared. His life must have been threatened just a second ago.
よせ、やめろ。
第9の晩に魔女は蘇り、誰も生き残れはしない。
I'm sorry, hold on. Do I have my headphones on backwards? Oh. Okay, that was weird. For some reason, the sound sounded like backwards to me. The witch pointed the end of her gold staff at Nanjo. Even though he didn't know what she was planning to do, Nanjo assumed that she must be trying to take his life.
南條先生。南條先生。そこに誰がいるんだよ。返事をしろよ。
てくれ。
Ooh. Wait, did she have one of the Winchesters? A sharp sound echoed. And just as sharply, the tip of the golden staff tapered and stretched, slicing the nodules for. Oh my. Jessica, who could only try to grasp what was happening with her ears, had no clue what was going on. But even so, she was able to realize that with that sound, Nanjo had died. So wait, did she just like gouge the head? Like, what was that? His corpse was found in the hallway in front of the mansion's servant room. The weapon used on him is soon to be a gun or spear-shaped object. You know, just a little longer and he'd probably manage to return alive. However, in the very end, the witch did not permit that. And she could tell that person was now in the corridor, right in front of the servant room. Furthermore, since she couldn't see, she wouldn't be able to run away, much less resist. Knowing that she was a mouse in a trap in a life or death situation, Jessica shuddered.
ああ、ジェシカ。かわいそうにね。目を怪我しちゃったのね。なら、あなたは逃げることもできないわね。
So just by losing sight of your eyes, do you lose your magic resistance? Is that what she said earlier? Like, I guess you can't see magic, therefore you can't, like, I don't know. It's kind of weird.
今から南條の死体でたっぷり遊ぶわ。それに飽きたら、次はあなたを殺してたっぷり遊んであげる。
Eh?
いいえ、せっかく目が見えないんだもの。殺してからだけじゃない。殺す前にもたっぷり遊んであげるわね。そこでしばらく震えながら待ってなさいね。南條の死体で私がどんな風に遊ぶのかをたっぷり想像しながら。
Jessica was struck with fear and let out a frail scream. She wanted to scream in a much louder voice, trying to get someone to help her. But she couldn't. When faced with true fear, it clogs up a person's throat. Right then, Jessica could only barely even breathe. She searched around with her hands, trying to find somebody to escape. But you know, even though she should have known this room well, just being unable to see it made it like a closed room of darkness. She ran into a shelf or something, and things like candy jars and bottles fell down, hitting her on the head. As she was now, it would have been tough for her to even guard her head to block it. She was painfully aware of how powerless humans have become just by losing their sense of sight. You know, of course, she had no time to be impressed by this fact. She crawled around at random, trying to escape from that place. But she kept bumping into things that she didn't understand, getting hit by various falling objects. It felt like the entire room was alive, bullying her and refusing to let her escape. Then a footstep could be heard from that presence in the hallway. Then a voice. She probably poked her head into the room since Jessica had been so loud.
にぎやかね。レディーならおとなしくベッドに座って待っていなさい。令状にふさわしい素敵な真っ赤な死に装束を与えてやるんだから。あなたを見つけた人が失神してしまいそうになるくらいのね。
Final moments. Until just a second ago, she had sworn that she'd kill the culprit if she found him. However, she was now very powerless. You know, she couldn't do anything except let out a scream, crawling around on the floor, bumping her head into the bed and the legs of the desk. Yeah, it's over. It's over. It's over. In the corridor, as the witch thought of how to toy with Nanjo's life, a single gold butterfly secretly watched that scene from the corner of the hallway. Yeah? It was Beata, who had barely escaped with her life months before. The gold butterfly softly returned to the human form. It was faint and transparent, like a lace curtain. By now, her power was so weak that even maintaining this form was difficult for her. Right next to her, Orno also appeared. Yeah, that much is pretty certain.
誰も生き残れはしませんが。
あやつはカノンに恋心を寄せておった。わらわはそれをもてあそんだこともある。しかしそれは魔女として恥ずべきことであった。
愛とは一なる元素。恋心はそれ以上に純粋で尊いものでございます。なぜかお嬢様はとてもそれを嫌われますが。
お師匠様は言った。魔法とは人を幸せにするためにあるとな。わらわもかつてはそれを知っていたはずだった。
I like this OST.
そしてそれを忘れた時からわらわはバトラの対戦相手の資格を失っていたのだ。
まさかお嬢様。ジェシカを助けるおつもりですか？危険です。
分かっておる。どうせ助けても黄金鏡の扉が開けば魔女の宴の慰み者よ。
That sounds like a possibly even worse fate. Like she's probably just fucked either way, but yeah, I see what she's trying to do.
しかしそれでもあやつの殺し方に比べれば数段慈悲深い。魔女の宴は恐るべき方法にて命を奪う。二度は奪わぬ。生死をもてあそばぬ。しかしあやつは違う。何度でも殺す。面白半分で殺す。そこにはわずかほどの慈悲もない。
Yeah, she's got some problems. She got some problems for sure.
わらわはせめてジェシカをそのような残酷な運命から救いたいと思う。
確かにそれを行うことは良き魔女として称えられることでしょう。しかし新しきベアトリーチェ様はすでにお嬢様のことを敵視なされています。もう一度姿を見られることがあったなら今度は逃れる術はありませんよ。
ジョージをシャノンに合わせた時、わらわはようやく魔女とはどういうものなのか、そして魔法とはどういうものなのかを理解したのだ。わらわは魔女だ。魔女であらねばならぬ。そしてバトラに対戦相手だと認められる。今度こそバトラに魔女だと認めさせなければならぬのだ。そのための道は長く険しいかもしれない。
I hope she can still accomplish that by the end of episode 3. I still don't know how much of that is even left at this point. Like we're getting close to like the last twilight, and the typhoon is about to end like tomorrow morning. So like, it feels like it's getting close, but I genuinely can't tell.
しかし今ここでその一歩を踏み出さねば、わらわは魔女を名乗れぬのだ。
Probably over like an hour or two. We'll see. I'll give it another maybe 40 minutes or so. Probably gonna make dinner.
お気持ちはわかりますが、どうやってお救いになるつもりです？今のお嬢様の身に使える魔法は多くありません。シャノンを蘇らせる時ですらジョージの力を借りたではありませんか。
だからこそジェシカだけは救えるかもしれぬのだ。今あやつはカノンに助けを求めている。
Or at least like heal her eyes so she can, see.
その思いの力を借りれば、わらわの魔力にてもう一度冥府の扉を叩けるかもしれない。
叩けはするでしょう。しかし魔力を使い切ります。新しきベアトリーチェ様にもし見つかったら本当に逃れる術はありませんよ。私はすでにお嬢様の執事ではありません。
It's true.
いざという時お助けすることはできませんのでご了承。
承知しておるわ。わらわはこれまで数えることもできぬほどの命をもてあそび奪ってきた。ならばその罪は同じ数だけの命を救うことでしょう。あがないのかもしれん。もとよりわらわに失うものなどないわ。名も魔力も引き継ぎ、今や魔女とも認められぬただの黄金の蝶。
バトラ様はどうなさるのですか？ゲームの途中です。彼はお嬢様がお戻りになるまで待つとおっしゃいました。ここで果てるようなことがあっても良いのですか？お嬢様にはバトラ様の向かいの席に戻る義務があるのですよ。
だからこそだ。わらわにしか救えぬ命があるならば、わらわはそれを救う。
It's the spirit.
そして魔女と認められるぞ。わらわは魔女にならねばならぬのだ。これが試練であるならば、これまでの悪行に見合わぬ幼稚なものよ。さあ、姿を消せ、ロノウ。かつて黄金の魔女と呼ばれた一匹の蝶の最後となるかもしれぬ魔法を見るがいい。
かしこまりました。
Hush, buddies.
黄金の魔女の名に恥じぬ魔法、拝見させてもらいます。願わくばそれが最後の魔法とならぬこと。
行け、我が友よ。もしインクが足りるなら、我が愚かなる生涯を記して同じ道を歩もうとする愚か者に手渡せ。さらばだ、ロノウ。
It's time. What is this? Oh?
どこにいるの？どこにいるの？助けて。助けてよ。
お嬢様。
Oh? Just like that?
僕はいつだってお嬢様のすぐそばに控えております。
カノ君。カノ君。
It seemed to Jessica as though she had heard Cannon's voice just then. She looked around with unseeing eyes, but of course she saw nothing. On the contrary, that actually caused her head to hit the desk again.
はい、お嬢様。僕がお助けします。
カノ君。生きてたの。
Now, I'm wondering if he's like a projection or if it's like, what is this? Like a kind of like a Jedi ghost. This time she thought she heard his voice clearly. Jessica jumped up in surprise, banging her head against the desk once again.
O 嬢様、どうか心を落ち着けてお聞きください。残念ながら僕は生きてはいません。僕はすでに死んでしまっています。
Okay, so he's not like, I guess like back.
ですが、あの魔女がお嬢様の危機を僕に知らせに来ました。そしてわずかの間だけお嬢様に手助けできる時間をくれました。どうか心をもっと落ち着けて。そうすればお嬢様にも僕の姿が見えるようになります。
Jessica obeyed those words. She chased all idle thoughts from her head and relaxed her breathing. Of course, her heart felt like it was going to explode after hearing the voice of the one she'd liked and had thought was dead. She resisted the excitement with all of her strength. She did. She felt as though Canon-kun really was right in front of her. Even though she shouldn't have been able to see him with her eyes, she was able to sense him clearly.
僕が見えますか、お嬢様。
えるぜ。確かにカノン君が見えるよ。
僕は魂だけの存在です。だからお嬢様に触れることはできません。こうして言葉をかけることしかできない。それだけしかできないか弱い存在ですが、それでもお嬢様の力になれるはずです。
He's gotta help.
言葉だけなの。カノン君に触ることはできないの？
僕は今ろうそくの煙よりも儚い存在です。聖者であるお嬢様に触れられればたちまち書き消えてしまうほどに。だからどうか触れようとしないでください。僕もお嬢様に触れたい気持ちを抑えているのですから。それよりお嬢様、よく聞いてください。新しい黄金の魔女は残酷な心の持ち主です。必ずやお嬢様をひどい目に遭わせようとするでしょう。
Deeper.
この部屋から逃げ出し隠れなければなりません。
どうやって？私は目が見えない。
静かに。僕がお嬢様の目になります。僕がかける言葉に従って動いてください。まずそのまま3歩這い出て、それから立ち上がってください。今お嬢様がいるのは机の下です。そのまま立てば頭をぶつけます。
机の下だったのか。わかったよ。1、2、3。立つぜ。
お上手です。次は時計でいう9時の方向を向いてください。
9 o'clock. Where's the top of the clock?
はい、お上手です。
なんだか恥ずかしいぜ。
大丈夫ですか？傷が痛みますか？
いや、平気だぜ。次は
Jessica thought that if this was a dream, she didn't want to wake up. And if she were allowed to, she would have wanted to take off the bandage covering her eyes and see it. However, if she did that, Cannon might vanish like frail candle smoke, just like he himself had said. She was afraid of that. So she satisfied herself with just listening to his words once more, repressing her desire to see him, to hold him. Therefore, what hurt her eyes now were tears of gratitude. Tears of gratitude for the god Maybe the witch who had given her this miraculous moment.
大丈夫なの？こんなに喋ってあいつに気づかれない？声を聞かれない？
隠密の結界を張っています。大きな音や声を出さなければ誰も気づきません。だから誰も僕の気配には気づけない。
なんだかわからないけど、とにかく静かにしてれば大丈夫ってことなんだな。
Yeah, it's basically what he said.
次はどうするんだ？
そのままゆっくり10歩ほどを歩いてください。ソファーに触ります。それに沿って進んでください。ゆっくりと落ち着いて、僕の言葉を信じて。
不思議だぜ。目が見えないってのがあんなにも怖いものだったのに、カノン君と一緒だと全然怖くないよ。
そう、それがソファーです。左になぞりながらゆっくり進んで、すぐ左にテーブルがあります。すねをぶつけないように気をつけて。
It was a very, very strange and bizarre team effort. You know, even though she would have been killed in an instant if the terrible witch noticed her, there was no fear in Jessica's heart. She was being protected and guided by Candy, someone she thought she'd never be reunited with. It would probably just be a moment, or yeah, sorry, momentary miracle. Jesus. Even so, Jessica was deeply grateful for it. She had hoped for too much. She was sure that he would disappear, so she tried not to ruin this faint miracle. And, trying to engrave this moment into her heart for all eternity, she slowly, slowly continued to walk, obeying Cannon's voice.
さらに10歩を歩けば使用人室から出ます。そしたら9時の方向を向いてゆっくりとずっと歩いてください。右の壁に手を置き、それに沿ってずっとずっと。僕が安全な部屋までお連れします。
そこに行ったらカノン君は帰っちゃうの
Cannon didn't answer, but his lack of an answer was enough to tell her the truth.
ならやだ、行きたくないよ。
ここにいれば魔女に殺されます。
いいよ、殺されればカノン君のいる世界へ行けるもん。
He almost had her. Almost.
お嬢様、どうか聞き分けてください。死者である僕には人の世は眩しくて辛すぎる。
Okay, Potato. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well.
だから長くはとどまれません。 だからお嬢様、僕に許された時間でお嬢様を安全な場所まで導くことをどうか許してください。そしたら時間が尽きるまで
Yeah.
ずっとお嬢様と一緒にいますから。
Sorry, I'm so locked in and didn't even explain. Today's Umineko Day, so we're reading the visual novel Umineko. That's what Thursdays are. It's kind of locked in silent reading time, but we're just chilling.
それがカノン君にできる精一杯なの？
Considering I just cracked open a coconut Dr. Pepper couldn't be any better. Nice. It's a good choice. Not bad.
はい。その代わり1秒でも長くお嬢様のそばにいるようにします。
So this is how Jessica chooses to go. Okay, fair enough.
ずっとお嬢様といてお話をします。
どんなお話？
どんなお話がいいですか？
カノン君が聞かせてくれるならどんな話でもいいよ。
では、勇気のない臆病な使用人の少年の話を。太陽のように眩しいお嬢様に恋心を抱き、同じ気持ちを打ち明けられながらも、臆病さに負け、ついに生あるうちに自分に素直になれなかった愚かで哀れな少年の話を。
なら私もしたいよ。大好きな男の子にね、もっともっと大好きだよって。勇気を振り絞れなかった臆病な女の子の話を。そしてその男の子に再会できる奇跡を神様がくださって、その勇気を振り絞る機会をもう一度与えてもらった女の子が勇気を振り絞る話を。
僕もその話を聞きたいです。
They're telling the same thing. It's the same thing.
だからそのためにも行きましょう。
Yin and yang.
安全な場所まで。
カノン君と一緒ならいつまでだってどこまでだって歩くよ。もう目なんていらない。カノン君が踏み出せと言うなら崖の先へだって一歩を踏み出すよ。
You know, that's what actually would happen to Beatrice. In another life.
ありがとう。さあ、お嬢様。参りますよ。最初の10歩。
嫌だ。ジェシカって呼んでくれなきゃ。やだ。
わかりました。では、ジェシカ。最初の10歩を踏み出して。
カノン君。
Very quiet, Jessica and Cannon slowly snuck out of the servant room. Just around the corner, the witch could be seen cruelly looking down at Nanjo's corpse. She didn't even notice their presence. However, Ronov, who stood at the ready by her side, met Cannon's eyes. Cannon thought, oh no, grimacing and blocking Jessica with his back. However, Ronov did not inform his master. He played dumb, just as though he hadn't spotted Cannon in the first place. It's a good man. No, maybe he did appear to chuckle. From a finger on Ronov's hands, which were joined behind his back, a single small gold butterfly appeared, flying in front of Cannon as though guiding him. It went unnoticed by the master he served. Cannon was surprised at the magic that butterfly held, because it was far more powerful than the secrecy barrier Cannon had possessed. He may not have known it, but the power of his had originally been Ronov's. Cannon's ability was an imitation of it, which Kinzo had made and given to him. As that butterfly of secrecy magic scattered gold scales, it grew smaller, bit by bit. Probably wouldn't last long. Without a doubt, even that would buy them enough time to get them far away from the cool witch.
さあ、お嬢様。その壁に沿い、ずっと歩いていきましょう。ずっと。ずっと。
カノン君と一緒ならどこまでもずっとずっと。
Fissy just went live. He's the rating soon. Damn. Led and protected by the small gold butterfly, the pair, separated by the wall of life and death, slowly walked away towards the end of the corridor. There was no way that the evil witch could have had magic to notice their flight. Until they disappeared at the other end of the corridor, the witch didn't realize that Jessica had vanished. By the time the gold butterfly Ronov had sent evaporated completely, Jessica had reached the parlor. Even though it would have been a quick trip if she'd been able to see, as she was now, it had been a very long adventure.
さあ、お嬢様。客間にたどり着きました。これからお嬢様を窓際のカーテンの束のところまでお連れします。その中に隠れればきっと安全です。
カーテンの中か。
Yeah, like I can go seek.
うまいな。私も昔よくそこに隠れたもんだぜ。
ベアトリーチェ様。
Mm-hmm. Cannon called out the witch's name. Jessica looked around in surprise, but she obviously couldn't spot the witch when she couldn't see. Beato had appeared once again, with a faint form. Cannon squared off against the figure of the evil witch, but Beato's expression was soft, or even pity.
どういう気まぐれで僕を蘇らせてくれたのか。僕にはあなたの気持ちがわからない。
気まぐれに過ぎぬ。いや、魔女とはこうあるべきなのだ。 わらわがそれを気づくのに1000年をかけた。それだけの愚かしい話だ。
誰がいるの？
Oh, don't worry, it's not a threat. It's not a threat.
お嬢様、お静かに。彼女は魔女、ベアトリーチェ。僕をお嬢様にもう一度会わせてくれた恩人です。魔女ベアトリーチ
ェ。わらわのことなどどうでもよい。それより早くその女をカーテンの影に隠すがよい。そなたに残された時間も長くないであろう。ジェシカと最後の語らいに費やすがいい。カーテンの束の中で密会とは、そなたらもなかなか味な真似をする。
ありがとう、ベアトリーチェ。カノン君に会わせてくれてありがとう。
Jessica didn't know where Beato was, so she said that while facing the wrong direction. Perhaps because she found that funny, Beato snickered.
あとは愛し合う二人にこの部屋を譲る。邪悪なる魔女に恋話は不要でな。退出させてもらおう。
ベアトリーチェ様、ありがとうございます。
礼などいらぬ。こんなのでは償いきれぬほど悪行を重ねておることはそなたがよく知っておろうに。
良き魔女には感謝を選別とします。今までがどうであったか、そしてこれからがどうであるかは知らない。しかし今この瞬間、あなたは間違いなく良き魔女だ。
She got good witch.
おべっかが過ぎるぞ、カグメが。次に会うときは期待を裏切らぬ悪しき魔女であるかもしれぬぞ。それでさらば。
Beato left the parlor and closed the door. And mustering the last of her remaining magical power, she sealed the door. It's a good idea. The fact that those two had escaped into here would be eventually noticed. And now that the ninth twilight had been reached, no matter how much they struggled, their inescapable fate had already been decided. However, until that final moment, they should be given the chance to speak with each other out of their love. The witch poured out all of her magical power to protect their time together, so that no one would be able to defile their time alone until the last possible moment. At that time, you know, Beato knows something. Her body had been detected by a magical searching technique. Oh. Oh, I don't like that cut. The evil witch's furniture had sniffed this place out?
無粋なるは魔女のゆえんか。
Oh.
若き二人に恋を語らせる気もなしとは。
45データ受領。
Oh, come on, bro. You're telling me that the seal that she just put on the door can't even cover them from the Shyster sisters? Is there really nothing the Shyster sisters can't do? Oh my god, this sucks. What a horrible way to ruin the moment.
標的称号仙台ビアトリーチェ卿と確認。百魔防御壁を解析。
Analyzing parlor defense
仮想
wall.
防御壁72層。構成防壁
72 layer multi-layer defensive wall. God damn. Attack proof barrier and anti-magic armor. Jesus.
100万円の狙撃は不可能。
Sniping to the parlor will be impossible. Good. Good.
410データリンク。410データ受領。にひ。
So wait, what's the plan then?
じゃあ仙台様を先に殺しちゃえばいいだけの話だね。
Oh. So the Shyster sisters kill the one who killed the barrier, or created the barrier, and then they, oh man, unfortunate.
大ベアトリーチェ卿攻撃許可を。撃ってちょうだい。ああ、急所は外してね。バーバーに聞きたいことがあるの。410射撃。
97% accuracy. And there it goes. The golden snake. Shyster sisters' gold bow released the gold snake. It crawled down the corridor, starting from the front of the servant room, aiming for the parlor as it drew a soft, snake-like curve-like trajectory. It pierced Beto's chest. Down goes another. Gold butterflies gathered. The cruel witch appeared along with her furniture.
先代様、二度もの妨害、もはや許されませんぞ。
許されようとも思わぬわ。しかしシエスタ姉妹も腕が落ちたものよ。
I don't know if the top 20 demons have really gotten rusty.
わらわを仕留め損なうとはな。
She just doesn't know. She doesn't.
それも二度も。
Bruno spoke in a manner befitting the witch's butler. As she pushed her pain aside, Beto grinned and spoke back.
申し訳ありません、先代様。急所を外せとのご命令です。ご指示があればすぐにでも貫きますとも。ピアスの穴でもおへその穴でもお好きな穴を。にひ。
The gold snake that had pierced Beatrice grew even longer, drawing a funnel-shaped helix and waiting its next order. It was prepared to pierce a vital spot as soon as the evil witch told it to.
残忍にかけてはわらわも一歩を取るそなたが急所を外させるとは。どういう風の吹き回しか。新しきベアトリーチェ。
聞きたかったのよ。どういう術で逃れたのか知らないけど、 私たちはあんたを仕留めたつもりでいたのよ。そのまま隠れていれば逃れられたもの、どうして危険を冒してまた現れたの？まさか若い二人をかばうためだけに戻ってきたわけ？
You'd be surprised.
さーてなあ。
さっきだってそうよ。どうして恋人たちを蘇らせて再会なんて甘い真似を？聞けば聞くほどに、あなたは私なんて足元にも及ばない邪悪の権化。そのあなたがどうして急にそんな生ぬるいことを始めたのかって。
Sorry, give me 1 second. I need to grab something by the door. I'll be right back. Hey, sorry about that.
それを聞きたかったのよ。
残忍ゆえにわらわは気まぐれなのよ。それを問うことに意味などあろうか。
シエスタ姉妹？ヌエ。
When she ordered that, the gold snake that was curled in the helix and suspended in space moved as fast as a real snake going after its prey, and pierced Beato's body multiple times from both sides, its gold tail drawing an X shape. As the Cool Witch had ordered, it drew a cross stitch through Beato's chest. The gold thread made a squeaking sound and tormented Beato. Rather than a gold snake searching for its prey, it waited for orders like a sewing needle ready to sew Beato.
あんたに限って気まぐれなんてあるわけがない。あんたのことを聞いたわ。
Yeah, you heard about the old her.
そして知ったわ。
That's right.
あんたは私ですら足元にも及ばない邪悪の権化よ。私はそんなあなたに実にふさわしい後継者だと思ったの。なのにあなたは邪魔ばかり。ぬるいことばかり言って私を呆れさせる。何があなたを変えたの？1000年間邪悪の限りを尽くしたあなたに。その1000年を翻すような何が起こったのか、それだけを知りたくて生かしたのよ。
You just wouldn't get it.
知りたくば。
Oh,
そなたも1000年を費やすがよいぞ。
A new background art. I haven't seen this before. Knew it. Beato's chest was once again sewn with the gold stitched cross. It tightened once again, squeezing fresh blood from Beato's chest. The intense pain it caused ran in conflict with its beauty to the eye.
あんたもひょっとすると死ぬと消えちゃって死体が残らないタイプかもしれないわね。だからあなたをゆっくりと殺すわ。でも私の質問に正直に答えられたら楽に殺してあげる。先代様にぴったりの華麗で豪華で優しい死を与えてあげる。水を張りバラで埋めて棺桶に沈めてあげるわ。素敵でしょ。それでも話せないの？あなたの心変わりの理由。
聞かれたことを答えぬもまた邪悪なる魔女の優越よ。
ヌエ2つ。
Twice.
もちろん答えてくれなくていいの。だってそうやっていじめてるんだもの。
That is a double-edged sword. Now I think about it. She unfortunately enjoys this.
無限の魔法は本当に素晴らしいわ。思えばこの世はすべからく有限。人の世に無限などありはしない。それは神が無限であるがゆえに人の世を見下すためすべての無限を取り上げたからよ。なればつまり無限の力とは神の力。遊べば遊ぶほどにさらに楽しい遊び方を見つけられる素敵な力。
She's genuinely so ruthless. Like, it's kind of insane. Why, ma'am? Like, why? God damn.
その力を1000年も思うがままに使い暴れ回ったあなたがなぜ今頃になって心変わりをしたの？
Because she got kicked out of her chess game.
まさか私に譲ったから惜しくなってとかじゃないわよね。
惜しいものか。そなたがそうだと信じている無限の魔法など魔法にあらず。真の魔法の力とはそなたなどでは到底至れぬ深淵にあるのだ。
それに気づいたから？それは何？
それに気づけず1000年をさまよえ愚かな魔女よ。
ヌエ 今度は3つ。
Fighting so hard. Beato's chest had been embroidered with the gold thread. Tighten even more, causing Beato more and more pain.
まあいいわ。
Ma, Iwa.
死に損ないのババアが何を達観したかなんてもう興味も何もない。もう飽きたからあっさり殺してあげるわ。あんたを殺せば客間の結界は解ける。
So sad.
そしたらカノンとジェシカもたっぷりいじめ殺してあげるわね。愛し合う二人を同時におもちゃにできるなんてこれは楽しそうよね。殺せ。
This is so sad. Without missing by a millimeter, the gold sewing thread shot through Beato's heart. That intense pain was worse than all of the pain before that put together. Beato finally remembered the actual feeling of dying, which she had forgotten over the course of 1,000 years. But she couldn't die. She must not die. If she died, it would mean handing over the two in the parlor to the cruel witch. So she definitely couldn't die. She resolutely refused to die.
新しきベアトリーチェ、頼みがある。客間の二人の仰せは短い時間のものだ。砂時計で測れる程度の時間でカノンは冥府へ消えるだろう。その程度の時間をどうか許してはくれぬか。いやよ、愛し合う二人を引き裂くのって楽しいんでしょ。あなたが言ったわ。だから私やってみたいの。ならばその快楽貴様に味わわせるわけにはいかぬ。
What are you gonna do about it?
楽しいぞ、恋人たちを引き裂くのは。そうよね、きっと楽しいわよね。だから邪魔しないで。もっと縫え縫え縫え縫え。
Yep.
にひ410了解。
The merciless gold sewing needle sewed the gold thread through Beato's heart over and over again. However, how much more it tightened, that heart did not stop.
まだまだこの程度では足りぬな。この程度では死んではやれぬ。何をしてるの？このババアのおしゃべりを止めなさい。早く殺すのよ。
殺してます。何度も心臓を縫い止めてるのにこいつの心臓止まらないんです。
You forget who the OG is?
あんた不死身なの？まさかそなたに無限は譲り渡した。鼓動を刻める数など残すところもたかが知れている。だがそれを一つ余計に刻むことで この部屋の二人にわずかでも
I
長い
see.
時間を与えられるなら
I see.
その程度の抵抗を永遠に続けようぞ。
縫え。こいつの心臓が動きを止めるまで縫い続けよ。
How many times did I get a take?
なんでこいつ死なないの？ありえない。心臓を縫い縛ってるのに。
It was never happened to the Shyster sisters before, huh?
なんで止まらないの？ならいいや。心臓を内側から爆破してやるに。
Oh.
かわいそうに逆らわなければ綺麗に死ねたのに。
As they said that, even though the gold needle and thread made round trips over and over again, Beto still didn't die. The Gru Witch eventually grew pale at how bizarre that was.
お前、一体何者なの？
How did she do it?
わからぬだろうな。わらわもわからなかったさ。だがな、どうやらこれが本当の魔法というものらしいぞ。つまりわらわは今こそなった。本当の魔女になった。
A true witch.
心臓内部で爆心固定。
Fixing explosion center in the heart interior.
心肝準備よし。
Oh.
爆破。
Oh. Oh my god. There was a terrible sound, and gold leaf was scattered around the area, along with a cloud of gold butterflies. Beto's chest had opened wide from the inside, and from that, gold butterflies and gold leaf poured out, staining the surrounding area gold. Then Beto's flesh crumpled. Unfortunate. Like a puppet whose strings had been cut, she crouched down and crumbled. However, a gold heart tied by gold threads floated in the air and continued to beat. What?
化け物だ。
When the Shyster sisters saw that, they fell on their butts in shock. Somehow, even though Beato had become nothing more than a heart, it still kept beating, continuing to protect the barrier to the parlor. It was an immeasurably vast magical power. Impossible to measure. As you stated, immeasurably. In other words, endless.
無限の魔女は私でしょ。なんでこのババアこんなになっても生きてんのよ。シエスタ姉妹、あの心臓を砕くのよ。早く。無理
です。申し訳ありません。私たちにはできません。
Can't? Coming from the Shyster sisters?
無理でしょう。何人たりともあの心臓を打ち砕けはしません。 竜王陛下の兵士風情ではとてもとても。
Not the soldier who serve under His Highness the Dragon King, yeah. These aren't no ordinary shyster sisters.
なら無限の魔女である私になら打ち砕けるということでしょ。私の力は神の力だもの。
恐れながらあなた様の力ではベアトリーチェ様の無限には傷一つつけられません。
それはどういう意味よ。
影を知らずして光がないように、有限を知らずして無限もまたなし。ベアトリーチェお嬢様の真の無限の力の前に、あなた様の脆弱な魔力ではとてもとても及びません。
Yikes.
何よそれ。
The Cruel Witch was surprised and stepped back. It was thinner than a lace curtain. But Beatrice's form, no, Beatrice's form was still standing. Even after being laid bare, so tragically like this, she refused to let evil through that door. At that time, a shadow just as thin as Beatrice stood behind her. It was Ken.
ベアトリーチェ様、ありがとうございました。このご恩は忘れません。
恩の数が恨みの数を超えたら、その言葉をもう一度聞こうぞ。もう良いのか。
はい、本当にありがとうございました。そしてベアトリーチェ様ももう大丈夫です。どうかお楽になさってください。
そっか、もう良いのか。何よ、なんであんたたちは先代のババアをベアトリーチェと呼ぶのよ。ベアトリーチェは私の名前でしょ。新しき黄金の魔女、そして無限の魔女である私の名前のはずよ。
You will never be her.
ベアトリーチェ様の名を語るな。
恐れながらベアトリーチェ様の名は無限の魔女を冠せられるお方が名乗られるべきもの。今や先代はあなた様を指すものでございますよ。
They had a whole ceremony and everything for her.
さらばだ、カン。どうせすぐに出会うさ。新しき悪夢
新しい夜の悪夢にて再びベアトリーチェ様のもとも。これで失礼いたします。
Cannon's form grew faint, and he disappeared into thin air. After watching him go, Beatrice's form also grew faint, and before disappearing, it slumped over onto the floor. Then there was a splat. The golden heart that had been floating in midair lost its sparkle, became blood-stained flesh, and fell to the ground. How frail it was. It was ragged and full of holes. But until a moment ago, it had sparkled so much, had continued to beat so forcefully. That heart still just barely managed to beat. However, it was only a matter of time before it stopped. Beatrice, whose form had become fragile and faint like incense smoke, lay on the floor, steadily watching her own heart. There, the cruel witch could be seen.
何が無限よ。現にこうしてぶっ倒れてるじゃない。有限のある無限なんてそんな矛盾存在するわけもない。これがあんたの魔法の限界なのよ。有限は無限に劣る。
Beatrice no longer even had the will to respond. No, on the contrary, it was doubtful that the words of the cruel witch even reached her ears.
あんたが本当に無限の魔女なら立ち上がってみなさいよ。どう？立てないでしょ？どうして立てないと思う？あんたが無限の魔女じゃないからよ。
The witch poked Beatrice's heart with her fingernail. Beatrice had no words with which to respond to that provocation. However, instead of words, she returned a single expression. It felt humiliating only to the cruel witch. Because she had gently curved her mouth and smiled. Footsteps were approaching at this. There was no way she had misheard it. That rough squeaking of heels was the sound of Battler's footsteps.
バトラか。偉そうなことを言っても、わらわはこのざまよ。そなたの言う本当の魔女というのを、わらわなりに頑張ってみたぞ。
ああ、見てたぜ。
Oh, goody.
なあ、これでわらわは魔女になれたかな。そなたの対戦相手の資格できたかな。
ダメだな。
It's useless. Adler said it unbelievably blunt. Wait, what? That's not what I was expecting. As Beatrice breathed painfully, she saw this and stared at herself, as though she could have expected.
そうか。本当の魔女への道はまだまだ険しいな。だがわらわは屈しぬぞ。そなたわらわの才並みに決して屈しなかったように、必ず本当の魔女になってそなたの対戦相手に。
ああ、ダメだな。
Useless?
全然ダメだ。お前は俺の対戦相手じゃない。
Damn. Not what I was expecting. Okay. The cruel witch raised her foot high. Below it was Beatrice's frail heart.
死ねよババア。ぐちゃっと潰れて、それでも無限が示せるってんなら示してごらんなさいよ。魔女は私よ。黄金の魔女ベアトリーチェは私なのよ。死ね
ー。ああ、ダメだ。全然ダメだ。
Yeah? And you still Rogue. I don't know how far or how long it will be, but I'll give it like maybe 10 more minutes. I really gotta eat.
これはここは
席につけ。俺の対戦相手はベアトじゃない。
Will I ever so desire? I think I might, because it feels like it's starting a new thing here. This could be like a new thing, a new section. We'll pick it back here. We'll pick it back up here. There's gonna be something. Just okay. I got you. I got you. You know how it is. We'll pick up there next time. Good prog today, though. Made a lot of good prog and stuff. And I gotta figure out what the hell happened with I guess my install or something. All the textures and shit are weird. I might have to repatch the game. But we'll see. We'll figure it out. GG's gang. GG's. We'll see y'all. Bye-bye.